Number 1. End of an era. This story was the last to feature Unit as a regular appearance in the programme. Of course, the brig made a few more appearances and Unit appeared in Battlefield in 1989, but this story really did mark the end of an era. Unit were introduced in the Pertwee era to support the storytelling when the Doctor was exiled to Earth, and I absolutely love this era of Doctor Who. Under the new production, and with a different vision, Unit were deemed not to be necessary for future plans for the programme. Which is a shame. Can you imagine if Unit did make an appearance in some of the later Tom Baker stories? What could have been, eh? Number 2. Zygon Cameo. It's difficult to believe that Zygons made only a single appearance in Classic Who. It feels like it was more. Admittedly, the Zygons were considered for both Shada and the Five Doctors, but unfortunately nothing came of this. Of course, they were reimagined in New Who and introduced to a whole new audience. Number 3. 1985. As with most Unit Earth stories of this era, they were set in the future. It's ambiguous, but it's believed to be around 10 years. This means that this story was set in 1985, and an amazing bit of foresight, the Brigadier refers to the Prime Minister as
"Oh, absolutely understood, madam."
Of course, in reality, this was 4 years before the UK had its first female Prime Minister in Margaret Thatcher. It's said that this was ad-libbed by Nicholas Courtney rather than scripted. Number 4. Loch Mess. This story sets up the mythology that the Zygon creature the Scarrison lives in Loch Ness and is therefore the Loch Ness Monster. 10 years later in Colin Baker's Time Lash, Megalyn is suggested also to be the Loch Ness Monster after he's pushed into the Time Lash. Perhaps they're both there. Number 5. Pitchford Panic. Terror of the Zygons was an early VHS release from BBC Video in 1988. On review of the content, the British Board of Film Classification awarded the rating of Parental Guidance, or PG, based on the aggressive way in which Harry uses a pitchfork. The BBFC guidelines would suggest that they need to take particular caution if an everyday object was used for a violent scene, presumably to stop impressionable children stabbing their siblings with a pitchfork. Number 6. Absence. At the time of writing, this is one of 3 existing stories that's absent from the BBC iPlayer back catalogue. Whilst the BBC have never directly confirmed the reason, it's likely due to licensing issues with the estate of writer Robert Banks Stewart. Given the fact that his only other story is The Seat of Doom, and that's also currently unavailable, it does tend to support this position. By the way, the other missing story is, rather sadly, the first Doctor Who story, the 4-part story of the Unearthly Child by Anthony Coburn, also likely due to similar licensing conflicts. Number 7. Faux Loch. While set in Scotland, the exterior footage of the story was filmed in Sussex in the southeast of England. If you've never been to either location, you could very well believe this was shot in Scotland. It's done really quite well. However, if you're at all familiar with the landscapes of both locations, it does become very clear this not to be the case. If you did enjoy this, go and check out my channel for lots more Doctor Who related nonsense. And if you really liked it, give me a like and a subscribe. It really does motivate me to do more.